Good afternoon, Cambo here. It's going to be a little bit of a different video to what I normally do. This one's going to be totally dedicated to talking about the Manly Seaeagles and what's been going on the last 48 hours and moving forward. So as we're all aware, Thursday night, home game, DC returns and we lose. And there was an effort there. It was better than the Newcastle game, but not an 80-minute performance and not what we expect. Then totally unexpected, but we were hoping for it, but we didn't think it would happen. Friday night, the announcement comes, Seibold sacked. Now, it's the right move, but it should have been done in October. The timing, once again, with the current chairman and ownership, the revolving door. And let's be honest, there's people in the media saying Seabold after 3 games. He's been given a lot more time than club legends like Tuvey and Hasler got. Tuvey made top 4, next year came 9th and got punted in 2015. Des made a prelim final in 2021, had a bad year, all revolving around the Pride jersey in 2022 and got punted. So I think Seib's had more than enough time. It's never fun for someone to lose their job, but it was the right time. Well, how do I feel about Kieran Foran? I think at this time of year, it's probably the best decision. You can't go and get, if it's going to be a Matt Ballon, if it's going to be, we've missed the boat on Willie Peters, if it's going to be, Michael Ennis. I'll tell you who I absolutely think it won't be, and not because I think he wouldn't do a good job, but because of some rumours going around. It won't be Brad Arthur. Brad Arthur, from everything I've been told, won't come to Manly while Manly's got the current ownership. Now let's come to that. The crux of the problem at Manly is the current owners. Let's have a look. Since they've been in charge, they've sacked Des Hasler twice, and you could go back to a lot of people down on Hasler, but if you actually go back, I'd recommend everyone go and watching the buy round. James Graham does an interview with Todd Greenberg. There's a section in that where Greenberg talks about going and talking to Wayne Bennett. Okay? And Wayne Bennett, and this was in 2011, and Bennett said to him, Bennett was signed, I think he was back in Brisbane, or he was on his way back to Brisbane, and he said very clear to Greenberg, there's a bloke on the Northern Beaches who's a premiership winning coach, and isn't getting shown, he's being disrespected by his club. Back then, they were lowballing him, and that's why Des left, that's why he went to Canterbury, all under the current chairman. Okay, since then, so Des went, as you all know, Tuvey took over and did a really good job. He was a couple of poor refereeing decisions from Shane Hayne away from being a premiership winning coach in 2013. Top 4, and he had a lot going on. You had the Glenn Stewart thing, you had the DCE pay rise. There's a lot going on, and Tuvey handled all that. Okay, and it was going to always be a rebuild. He never got a chance to. They brought Trent Barrett in. Absolute disaster. Should never have happened. And some of the things that happened while Barrett was there under the current chairman's watch. Okay, Willie Peters was at Manly. He was an assistant coach and left because he was being bullied in the workplace by Barrett's right-hand man, strength and conditioning coach. Not even going to name him. Okay, the same strength and conditioning coach that now sees Lloyd Perrott suing the club. Okay, for him collapsing at training. Okay, so we know how that ended. Okay, Barrett with his gardening leave pretty much jumped before he was going to get sacked. In comes Des, an absolute against. So you got to remember, in 2018, Manly came second last, as close as we were to our first ever wooden spoon under Barrett. Okay, Des comes in and takes that team from second last to the second week of the finals. With not the best squad, but he did it. Okay, we have 2020 COVID, and then you go 2021. What a season. A game away from a grand final. You get 2022 starts, they're looking okay. The Pride jersey. Now, when all that hit the fan, there was no CEO. Who fronted the media and had to deal with it? The coach. The coach who didn't even know about the jersey, okay, and the rumblings were going to happen. And it just derailed the whole season, and in comes Tony Mestroff and the current chairman, and what do? They dumped Des after one bad season. And we know now that Mestrov and Seibold were tight from their playing days at London. You know, they got that decision was totally wrong to start with. They signed Seibold, and we all know how it ended in Brisbane, right? They signed him, and then the assistant coach they signed is the bloke who they probably should have replaced with Flanagan, a premiership winning coach. These are the decisions that have happened under the current ownership. And honestly, nothing's going to change. Look, I'm hopeful that KFOS, put it this way, if the players play with half the commitment, if they show half the commitment and effort he did as a player, we're in with a fighting chance, let's be honest. But the poor fella, he's been thrown in at the deep end. I like the cut of his jib, I reckon he'll swim. And I reckon the hope for the team at the moment, I say for Manly going forward, is our CEO, who understands the club, who is no dummy. You know, we're talking a double degree, and he's also run the NRL's integrity unit. So he's a smart man in Jason King. If these two can somehow keep the owner to the side and do it, we're a chance. I don't think we'll make the 8. But as long as we don't get that spoon and we show an improved performance, that's all we want, isn't it? But the problem's still there. The ownership is the problem. And you only had to listen to that press conference yesterday, and the way he talked, and like with such, he was talking about junior development and how the Leagues Club allegedly, and they've just pasted him on Facebook this morning and repeated what he said, that the Leagues Club don't put anything into junior development. They put $2 or $3 million into junior development and pathways, which isn't really their task. Well, I'll tell you something, Scott. I live in Redcliffe. I bet you'd never hear Terry Reader talk begrudgingly about the way the Redcliffe Dolphins put money into their pathways. Because you know what? Look at Penrith. That's where you get your players from, Scott. Okay? The way he begrudgingly talked about the money they put into junior pathways. You know, this club's got a fly in, fly out CEO. That's what he is. Okay? Now, I just hope Foran gets the support. They were saying in that same press conference that Foran's going to get some help around him, and they're already internal in the club. I'm hoping that's either a Jeff Tuvey or an Anthony Watmeyer, because really, all he's got there with him at the moment is Brett Kamali and Jim Dimmick. Now, Dimmick's been there the whole Seabold time, and then you've got Kamali, who was sacked as the Tigers' WNRL coach, or NRLW, whatever you want to call it. Okay? And the last thing I look, he's coaching New South Wales Cup, and they're not doing really good. So you look at, okay, so they're playing Redcliffe this week. I should be excited. I can walk to the game. I'm going to the game. What do I want to see this week when the team list comes out? Joey Walsh, number 1. I want to see him in that 6 jersey. Okay. And I know Luke Brooks has copped a lot of crap over his career, right? The Tigers fans are brutal, but I'm just going to call it how I see it. The other night, Manly were in the fight. They were in the fight and they were ahead. And in the space of 5 minutes, we saw a Corey Waddell was stripped, a Luke Brooks missed tackle, and a Corey Waddell dodgy penalty. You know what happened? Bang, bang, the game was over. Okay? So I don't want to see Corey Waddell near the team. Okay? He's an honest, fringe first grader, but he shouldn't be on that bench. Simi Laffey should be on that bench. And actually, I'd go as far as saying I'd like to see Simi Laffey start. And I'll tell you why. When Manly scored that try in the second half, that Manly aren't making meters, okay? And part of it's got to do with Seibold's game plan. He wants them to shift it, but they're not making the hard meters, okay? Brooks is actually making more meters than most of the forwards. Shouldn't be like that. So they got the kick-off. The first run off the play ball kick-off, Sim made probably about 13, 14 minutes strong run. Manly made on that, they went 70 metres in that set. That was probably one of their biggest sets. Outside of the first one in the game where they scored all night, he is probably going to be, outside of Paseka, the most likely guy to make metres. Okay? Who cares that he's 19? If he's good enough, he's old enough. You know, and what angered me and what was frustrating me about Seibold is that he wasn't picking the young fellas. Okay? We even hear on Thursday night, Sim wasn't even going to play. He only played because Bullymore did an ankle in the warm-up. Okay, so Seabs, you didn't help yourself, mate. You should have given these young fellas a go. You know, Joey Walsh in the trials last year when he played the game, he's up to it. You know, when you've got someone like Michael Innes that knows that playing group, he was in amongst it last year, talking on Fox, saying, in his opinion, he's as good at that age as Katoa at Redcliffe. That says it all. Says it all, really. So that's what I'm hoping. I hope they put up a good fight, you know, because the win's around the corner. If they don't beat Redcliffe, they've got a few softer games coming. The first win's going to come, and I don't think the spoon's going to come our way, in all honesty. So feel free, if you've got any comments about what I've said, if you agree, disagree, put it through. I'm going to do more of these Seaeagles ones. So that's it. I usually say, if in doubt, pull out, Cambo out. But I'm going to say in this one, pen out. See you later.